Desensitization is the key to safety in horsemanship. In the U.S. alone, there are over 65,000 emergency room visits caused each year by horse accidents. It's tough to say how many of those accidents are caused by horses that are not properly desensitized, but I'm willing to bet it's a large majority of them. Desensitizing our horse is simple and effective and creates a partner that is capable of seeing the world in a much more rational way. The goals we have for a desensitization session are built upon the goals we achieved in our round penning session. When working on desensitizing, it's important that we choose the correct timing. Trying to desensitize a horse that is fresh and has not had any exercise is a recipe for disaster. We should always place the desensitizing procedure after an exercise session. We will always start desensitizing by exercising our horse. And in this case, we've just finished a session in the round pen. So at this point in time, our horse is looking for a break so she can catch her breath. That is the first goal of desensitizing. Correct timing. Always desensitize after exercise. The next goal is to introduce our horse to pressure with neutral intent. In the round penning session, we introduced our horse to pressure in the context of active body language. Our first active body language in the round pen was the point, which is also a form of pressure. Our next active body language in the round pen was to follow our horse with our buckle pointed behind the driveline. In addition to this active body language, we added clucking and spanking the ground with our stick and string as additional pressure that we layered on top of our active body language. With desensitization, we are now creating a contrast where we will add pressure with neutral body language to help our horse understand that they can experience pressure without the expectation of taking action. When my body language is neutral and my horse experiences pressure, my expectation is that she will remain calm. When she remains calm or chooses a calm behavior, I will release pressure to teach her that is the correct response. This is the final goal for desensitizing. Release on calm. Her skill to decipher the meaning behind my pressure is what we are teaching during a desensitization session. The message that I'm teaching her is, in the face of pressure, only take action if my body language tells you to. If my body language is neutral, do nothing but remain calm. This is a skill that will no doubt save her life at some point in time. And the irony is that we probably won't even recognize when that happens. A horse that remains calm when they experience pressure is one that doesn't have an accident. The accident that doesn't happen doesn't hurt us, doesn't hurt the horse, and is really hard to identify because it's an absence of experience. I will say this though, if you have worked hard to follow this program and you have systematically put your horse through a desensitization program like I'm teaching you to do right now, you will likely hear comments like this in the future. You're so lucky, your horse is so calm, your horse has a great attitude, your horse is so good. All of these statements are the result of the absence of scary behavior. They are code for you did a great job desensitizing your horse. But the person complimenting your horse probably doesn't even realize that you are the reason your horse is to be complimented. It might feel like those comments discount all the work you put into your horse and are only associating the successes you have with the baseline demeanor of your horse. Don't worry about it. If you hear those kinds of comments, just know that you did it. You trained your horse to be a great partner and not be reactive. Carry on with your training program and know that you have been successful in providing your horse with excellent life skills. The way that we introduce our horse to neutral pressure is by systematic exposure that does not overwhelm our horse. We start this desensitization with the tools we use to handle them daily, beginning with a lead rope. My job is to touch her all over her body without causing her to panic. I will introduce the lead rope in small doses and with rhythmic motion. Very simply, I'll toss the lead rope onto my horse and stop tossing it when she is calm. I put my body in the safest position, which is at a 45-degree angle to her shoulder. If she should back up or run forward, I'm in a relatively safe position. I'll hold the lead rope in the hand closest to her nose, about 12 inches from the halter, making sure that none of it is wrapped around any part of my body. These little details go a long way to ensure the safety of myself and my horse. With my body in neutral stance, I begin by tossing the end of the lead rope over her back. I'll start by tossing the lead rope over the least sensitive parts of her body, which are her withers and her back, and then I'll work my way up to the more sensitive parts, like her feet and head. The response I'm looking for ultimately is standing still. However, I'd like to see her blinking, taking a deep breath, cocking a hind foot, or licking and chewing. All of these behaviors give me the indication that she is processing her experience rather than shutting down. If she were frozen or trembling, then I would know that she's been overwhelmed, even though she's standing still. If that was the case, I would continue to expose her to pressure, but I would back it away from her so that she's not overwhelmed. I might start by just tossing the lead rope onto the ground next to her without actually touching her with it. Each horse has a different level of comfort zone, and it's up to us to read their body language to determine where it's at. Running sideways away from the lead rope is a clear indication that they're overwhelmed, but so is freezing. Remember, our goal here is to introduce pressure without overwhelming our horse and remove it when they have shown a calm response. If they're overwhelmed, they likely can't achieve a calm response. We have to set up the exercise to match our horse's demeanor and be sure to measure the pressure against their reaction. As long as she's not exploding, if she were to move her feet, I would continue tossing the rope and calmly move with her. As soon as her feet were still, I would stop tossing the rope. The key here is to only stop applying pressure when she's showing a calm response. Every time we are desensitizing our horse, we are practicing in a controlled environment the way that they should respond to things that are scary for them. If we're overly concerned about scaring our horse or causing them trauma, then we might not even do this exercise because we had a goal of never causing them to feel discomfort. Consequently, they would be ill prepared for the real world, which is teeming with all kinds of pressure that will undoubtedly cause them to be motivated to take panic and run level action. We have to gently but systematically push them out of their comfort zone and teach them how to get back to it without allowing their genetic predisposition of panic and run to take control. We use pressure and release to teach this vitally important skill, and we practice it over and over in many different situations with many different objects. My overall goal is to teach my horses to basically ignore pressure and remain calm unless I am actively asking them to take action. We started by tossing the lead rope onto her back and legs, and she seems well within her comfort zone there. So I'll move up to her neck and eventually her head, which is the most sensitive part of her body. As soon as a rope comes up above her eye, she braces and gives me a clear indication that we are out of her comfort zone. She's not panicking, but she's letting me know that she didn't feel comfortable with the rope above her eye. Now is when we are actually desensitizing. Before this moment, she was comfortable and didn't need to find the motivation to learn anything. Now that we found the edge of her comfort zone, we stay there with our pressure until she gives a more calm response than the first one. 3 times in a row, she braces less than she did at first, so I reward that by releasing the pressure on calm. This is the first iteration of a desensitizing lesson. She tossed her head and began to move her feet when she felt uncomfortable, and that did not stop the pressure. She gave a less reactive response, and that did stop the pressure. This is the first of many desensitizing lessons that she will learn, and if I do my job right, they will all reinforce for her that the only answer is a calm response. She gets a release from the rope touching her head, and I switch sides and start the lesson over from the beginning. We have to assume that the right side of the horse doesn't communicate with the left side, and we will start over, introducing the lead rope to the least sensitive parts. She's obviously unfazed, so we move up quickly into the edge of her comfort zone. Each time, the response to the rope above her eye is fairly calm, so I give her a release by moving back to her back and her feet. She's passing this stage with flying colors, so it's time to move on to our other tools. I will introduce the stick and string to her with a very similar manner. I'll basically touch her all over with the stick and string, being careful not to overwhelm her. With passive body language, I rub the stick and string all over her body. I use it as an extension of my arm to be able to safely touch her feet, flank, and belly. If she were to kick out, I could maintain the pressure until she stops because I'm not in danger. It's just my stick. This seemingly small detail is actually quite important. If we attempt to touch our horse's body using our own body parts and they have a negative reaction, we have no choice but to remove the pressure to protect ourselves. This inadvertently trains our horses to remove pressure by striking out. That is the opposite lesson we are trying to teach. If we use our tools properly, we can prevent a major issue. I never attempt to handle any horse's body parts prior to testing them with a tool that keeps me safe. It's clear that she's comfortable with us touching her body and neck, but once we get up to her eye, she again shows us that we are leaving her comfort zone. As soon as she's calm, I release. Then I go back, apply pressure again, and release on calm. This next time, I increase the pressure a little bit by moving the stick in front of her ear and rubbing her face. Right there, she attempts to remove that pressure by walking forward into my space. Notice that I stood my ground, maintained pressure, and backed her out of my space. As soon as she chooses calm, I release the pressure. I try again. She makes the right choice by remaining calm, allowing my stick to rub her face. I release pressure again to confirm for her that was the right choice. That interaction was a tiny moment that will reinforce for her that when she's unsure of something new, walking on me is not a choice. The only option is to remain calm. That was a moment where she could have learned so many things. If I had been in the wrong position, either too close to her or too much in front of her, and I had to remove the pressure by backing up to protect myself, she could have learned that using her body to overwhelm me will stop her from being touched. But because I was in the right place, stood my ground, and maintained pressure, she learned that the release is in her calm behavior. I only gave her a release when she chose the right answer. She learned a huge lesson, and the whole thing transpired in about 2 seconds. Then I continued to prove to her in the next attempts that I will release the pressure when she's calm. This situation could have easily escalated with her overreacting to the stick and running me over, sending me to the emergency room. But it was so easily handled here during this desensitizing exercise because I have a plan that's based on safety. Whether we know it or not, planned it or not, like it or not, we are always training. And this is a perfect example of that concept. Instead of allowing the beginning stages of a pushy, dangerous horse that does not respect the space of her people, we have just laid the first bricks in the foundation of a respectful, dependable partner who is easy and relatively safe to be around. Now we'll go and treat the whole right side of her body the same as we did the left-hand side. We're going to touch her all over, making sure that she's comfortable with the stick touching all the parts on her right side. Her withers and back, her legs, her flank, her belly, her shoulder, and her neck. We'll spend a little more time on her head, making sure that she indeed learned the lesson to remain calm. We'll prove to her that when she gives us a calm response on this side, we'll take the pressure away. She's doing a great job with the stick touching her face. She obviously doesn't love it yet, but since she's choosing to be still and accept it, we'll give her a release to reinforce that choice. The next tool that we introduce to her is the string on the end of our stick. Up until now, I've been holding the string with my hand, and now I'll let it swing, and we will introduce it the same way as the lead rope. We touch her all over her body and make sure that she's comfortable in all areas with no resistance. Many horses react violently to anything touching their legs and belly like this. It's very apparent that I can reach out and touch her easily with the string without putting my own body in jeopardy. You've probably already figured that that is a strategic part of our safety plan. I would much rather use the stick and string to find out that a horse is going to choose kicking as a response to their feet getting touched. Maintaining a safe position and using tools to remain safe is a habit that we all need to embrace. We work our way up to her head, and she gives us a very calm response, complete with licking and chewing. It's clear that she understands that our tools are not going to hurt her and that we will remove pressure when she chooses the calm response. We'll practice a few more times with her accepting the stick and string touching her face. Each time she offers a calm response, we remove pressure. Repetition is important here, and the repeated release is the teaching mechanism. In addition to touching her with the string, we also have to introduce the idea of the string moving with the expectation that she remains calm. The last time she saw the string, it was swinging like this, spanking the ground while I was asking her to move. Now we have to go back and teach her that it's not simply the string spanking the ground that is her cue to move. It's the combination of my active body language, applying pressure with my tools directed toward her, that is her cue to respond. The moment that this distinction becomes clear in her mind is the moment that we have developed a true partnership. She transforms from a horse that is scared and reactive to her environment to one that looks to her people for confident leadership. She is looking at the whole picture to make choices about what action to take. Instead of choosing to panic and run, she is choosing to accept leadership. That's a choice that will have a dramatic effect on her quality of life and is part of the reasons that I'm so passionate about teaching these techniques to as many people as possible. The more people who know how to desensitize horses, the more horses get desensitized. The more desensitized a horse is, the more likely it is to have a safe and caring home. A desensitized horse is a safe horse. An undesensitized horse is dangerous, and people have a hard time caring for dangerous horses. These are the horses that get bounced around from home to home, hurting people as they go. Not because they're mean, but because no one taught them that panic and run is no longer necessary. It's an easy lesson to teach, and I believe that it is our obligation as responsible owners to help our horses feel more comfortable in the world we ask them to live in with us. We have to introduce new and unfamiliar situations to our horse. These situations have to push them outside of their comfort zone so that we can prove to them that they are safe with us. In this session, we only saw a small indication that she was ever uncomfortable. She communicated that each time we applied any pressure near her head and ears. We maintained the pressure using rhythmic motion and rubbing until she gave a calm response. Each time she gave us a calm response, we removed that pressure. That is how you successfully desensitize a horse. We will be practicing this exercise on both sides of her body. We will also revisit this exercise after every lesson in this course. If you follow the rule of every time you exercise your horse, you also desensitize it, your horse will be well on its way to being a safe partner.